It's really to pull back the curtain and dispel this myth of work-life balance, and instead, through my life experience and stories, show how you can actually have career ambition, family, and motherhood, and they can fuel each other instead of competing against each other.
You're listening to What Fuels You, where we deep dive with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business leaders to learn more about their stories and uncover nuggets of wisdom we can all use. I'm your host, Shauna Swerland, CEO of Fuel Talent, an award-winning recruiting firm based in Seattle. Today's guest on the What Fuels You podcast is Loretta Soffe. Loretta is a seasoned retail executive, board director, and strategic advisor with more than 25 years of experience driving growth and innovation in the global retail space. As the former executive vice president and general merchandising manager of women's apparel at Nordstrom, she led the company's largest division, growing revenue by 33% to over $2 billion and doubling e-commerce sales to $275 million. Loretta was also a key player in shaping Nordstrom's early omnichannel strategy and building the foundation for the company's e-commerce success. After Nordstrom, she launched a successful consulting practice and served as a senior advisor at Boston Consulting Group, working with global fashion, beauty, and lifestyle brands. As a recognized thought leader in retail strategy and women's leadership, Loretta is frequently invited to speak at industry conferences and contribute to thought leadership forums. She is passionate about mentoring emerging leaders and empowering the next generation of women executives. Loretta just finished her first book called Balance is Bullshit. I'm so excited to welcome her on the What Fuels You podcast. Welcome, Loretta. So good to see you. I'm so freaking excited. I can't, it feels like it's like my birthday. I'm so happy.
Oh, Shauna, me too.
This is so fun. I was telling Nick, I'm like, this is literally one of my all-time oldest, dearest besties, like sister.
Mm.
I loved your book, which we will get into. But first, I'm hitting you with some rapid fire.
Oh, shoot. I knew they were coming.
What's your favorite season?
Summer.
I knew you were going to say that one.
I love the sun. I love the lake.
What's your favorite swim stroke?
I was a butterflyer growing up, butterflyer. Freestyle and backstroke these days.
Yeah, so good. Okay, who's your favorite fashion designer?
Oh my gosh. Well, we'd have to say Giorgio Armani, given the
Because he
fact that he
just
just
passed
passed.
away. I
Oh,
know.
other than that, I don't know. Chanel, just iconic.
Yes, Chanel's so iconic. Okay, nicknames. Give me five nicknames.
Oh, for me, oh my God, you know these. Rue is still the one that my siblings call me, and my parents, my dad called me until he passed. The swim team chant at our country club growing up was Loretta, Laruta, La Bega. So I feel like I've got three down. Sam calls me Dolly.
I love when he calls you Dolly. It really warms my heart. Like it has always made me so happy.
I know. So Sam calls me Dolly. The kids call me Mama. And then you and a lot of our close friends call me Lo.
Yeah, you know what? I say low or I say low rider. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why. Low
Lo
rider.
Retta. Yeah, exactly.
What's your favorite getaway? I already know this one, but
Oh my gosh. St. Bart's
I knew it.
with our family.
Do you know
Yeah.
that I've still never been there? And I like see your photos and your posts, and I'm like, it's kind of heaven on earth, and your family does it right. It's so good.
Yeah, it's really a special, it's super special. And we've been going there so long now. It's kind of like the kids have grown up, so to speak, but with a ton of other families that all go at the same time, which makes it almost like we all check in for like a camp during the holidays and everyone
It's
catches
so
up. It's
good.
really fun.
I love it. What's a hidden talent?
Oh my gosh. My air guitar. It's not that hidden. It actually can get
Oh,
exposed quite frequently, but
it
that's,
makes
yeah.
me so happy. It's so aspirational. I am like pulling muscles, everything we're talking about. Oh, three words your kids would use to describe you.
Happy, energetic, and spontaneous.
That's perfect. And so supportive. You're such a good mama. Is there a quote that you think of that you would like when in doubt? Favorite quote?
I don't know if I can even articulate a favorite quote, but it's you only get one chance. So live every day. What is it that live like you were dying? Tim McGraw.
Yeah.
We only get one chance. This is not a dress rehearsal. And I think I really live my life that way, that gosh, just make the most of every day, every situation, every relationship, because you don't get it back. And when it's gone, it's really gone.
Oh, yeah. Okay, going back to fashion, what's a must-have staple in your wardrobe?
Good jeans. Actually, good jeans. I just bought a pair a couple days ago and I'm wearing them now. I wore them
What are
yesterday.
they?
I
Let me
literally
see.
oh my gosh, they're way over here, but they are just an AG low rise, wide leg. They feel like sweats, but they're jeans.
Oh,
And
cute.
then
I thought
I'd
you
say
were
the
going to say
other
your
thing
black
that's a
blazer.
must. No, because I really don't wear blazers anymore. I would say great cowboy boots because you can wear them here in Seattle and then we're down in Austin a lot, but good jeans, good cowboy boots.
Yeah, a
And
good
of
white
course,
tee.
good bikinis. Good white
Good
tee.
little teeny tiny bikinis that you look hot in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, here we're going. I want to know everything you can tell me. As you know, was texting you from the airplane when you gave me the early copy of Balance is Bullshit. And I would always support my friends, anything I could do to support. But I was reading it as like a favor and also a like, I'm so curious and I can't wait. But I don't love reading as much as some people. I get really tired when I read, and I motored through that thing so fast. I was so impressed. And then what I loved is because there's so many books out there. I know this is in the category of like so many categories, business, motherhood, all the categories. But there's so many that I've read, and this has like actual key takeaways and a workbook, and just I loved it. So you crushed it. That's the net. But
Thank
what would you
you.
say if you had to describe quick elevator pitch of like what this book is about?
What it's about is just finally dispelling this myth of work-life balance and calling bullshit on it. And I do that when I had this major aha moment when I was trying to juggle all three jobs, which was an executive for Nordstrom with a massive responsibility, as well as three kids under the age of really four when I got that big, huge job. It was a newborn, two and four. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're also trying to be a wife and take care of yourself. And it wasn't until I was fired out of that job that I finally realized for the first time I was trying to spin all three of these jobs like plates at the same time, and it was not sustainable. And so I realized in that moment when I got fired and I tried to handle that with grace that actually for the first time since having kids, I could actually prioritize being a wife and being a mom. And that's when it really hit me that this whole thing that I had been sold, that I feel like everyone has been sold around work-life balance is actually, it's not possible. There's going to be times when you're going to totally over-index on work and then you're going to reel it in and then go have a great time and play with your family or your friends or your husband or whomever. So it's really to pull back the curtain and dispel this myth of work-life balance, and instead, through my life experience and stories, show how you can actually have career ambition, family, and motherhood, and they can fuel each other instead of competing against each other.
And so if you, I know you're doing some coaching now, and we're going to get into all this, but if you were to get a call from someone who's like, "Hey, I'm CEO of a multi-billion dollar company. I'm a woman. I'm young. I'm trying to balance all of this." Are there key takeaways of like stop multitasking, trying to be present where you are? Like, are there some key, like, here's the three things if you had to grab them?
I'd say don't stop with your career ambition. Go for it. You can do it. But what you need to do is you need to get really super clear on your values. And if those are family, fitness, friends, wellness, whatever they are, get crystal clear on those. Understand then that your priorities have to ladder up against those. And then you actually have to reflect your time allocation and your calendar in accordance. And so
Right.
many times what happens is people will have these high-powered jobs and have a family and want to take care of themselves. And they say they're all important. And then when you go and look at the calendar and you look at how they're allocating time, where they're spending time, it's usually in conflict.
Yeah.
So it's pretty simple. easy to say, hard to do, but it's a simple kind of first brush at if this is what's really important and these values are important, how are your priorities and the way you're spending your time and your calendaring reflecting? And in most places, it's not.
Yeah. What's interesting is I use a lot of like low isms or like they're in the back of my head. Not necessarily like, oh, what would low do? But when you've said the words like I'm on my heels or I'm on my toes,
Yeah.
and it's like it really resonates for me because you're one of the most grounded and kind of mindful people that I surround myself with. And I can feel that. Like when you're just off. And I do find that stuff needs to be calendared. Was there somebody who put this book in your mind, or did you come up with the idea? And why is right now the right time to be telling this story?
It didn't, the book kind of was an evolution. I'll tell you, it was probably about 2 years ago. I was asked to give a guest lecture where I had been lecturing previously at University of Texas, where our kids have gone in the business school for undergrad, and at the same time at Columbia in the business school for MBA candidates. And so here I had two different professors across the country, undergrad and grad, that both asked me to come in and speak. And ironically, both said, can we not talk about brand building, business frameworks, and supply chain and building businesses? Instead, can you talk about leadership, legacy, and your career path and the lessons you learned? And even mentorship. And I was like, wow, two different schools, undergrad, grad, absolutely, I'll do it. And in both cases, you could have heard a pin drop. This is a situation where the laptops were down, the kids were leaning in, men and women. I was swarmed after, and it really hit me that they're not getting this kind of guidance about what it takes to build a career while building a family and sustaining yourself and a really strong marriage. You can't Google it. You can't ask chat for a roadmap, and they're not learning it in the classroom. So that was kind of the first indicator that I got to find a way to scale this message. And then fast forward about a year ago, I was asked to give a keynote in New York for about 150 women that had mid-level jobs in technology. And then I said to the women that were hosting the event that asked me, guys, I'm not going to talk about technology. I worked in it for about 2 years. I'm not passionate about technology. I love what it does. It's not my passion from a business perspective. But I said, but what I'd love to do is share again my story, my lessons, and kind of my philosophy on the career ambition, motherhood, marriage pursuit that is entirely possible. They said absolutely. And again, I could have heard a pin drop. I was flooded. And that was really my kind of cliff notes of this book sample. And then when I came back after that, I was like, okay, what can I do? And I was talking to a mentor of mine, a business catch up. We got caught up on the business that he was working on, that I was working on. I said, Harvey, actually, you know what I'm really passionate about? I really think I want to write a book. And he's been a mentor of mine. You probably know him for
I know Harvey Cantor, right?
10, 20 years, Harvey Cantor.
He's fantastic. Yeah.
And he said, Loretta, you have to do this. And he said it so emphatically. And when someone you respect so much kind of doubles down on something that you're kind of like, am I sure I should do it? Am I
Yeah.
not? I was like, and he said, and I have the woman you need to work with. And he was right.
Oh,
And that's who I ended up hiring. Done and
were you
done.
in a situation where you were, I don't know, because you were like, I don't know if I have it in me as far as like, because for me that feels daunting more than anything, just the like,
Yeah.
oh, that feels like a lot of work. And I know because we were talking
Hmm.
throughout that it's a lot of work. Or was there a part of you that's like, why is it important for me to tell this story? Yes, they could hear a pin drop, but without the name Nordstrom after your name, did it feel a little bit like imposter syndrome-y?
Absolute. There, yeah, a bunch of that. It was like writing a book. Well, like, what does that entail? And I'm not just writing like a little like paperback as like a legacy for the family. Like, if I'm going to do it, you know me, I'm going to do it.
Oh, you
So
did
that
it.
was kind of daunting. But then you're right. I did have imposter syndrome. There were so many times where I either woke up in the middle of the night, but more often than not, I'd be on a dog walk and I literally would go through like why me? Why now? And like, who else could tell this story? And sure, there's a lot of people that could tell their story, and I'm sure it would be engaging, inspiring, and motivating. But the fact is that the stories that are out there around this subject are, I don't know, I don't feel like they're 360 in terms
Hmm.
of motherhood, marriage, parenting, legacy, leadership, but also I feel like too many stories that are being told, especially to the younger generation, are all polished and perfect, and they're coming from celebrities, and it's not realistic. And I think it's actually doing more harm than good because then people see that version and they're like, well, I can never do that. So I guess I won't do any of it.
Yeah, but but to be frank, Lo, people do see you sometimes like that because you're great at everything. You've got so many incredible attributes. So I can see where it could be intimidating regardless of who's telling the story. But what I loved about your story is that there were vulnerabilities in there.
Mm.
So many things that I didn't even know as one of your good friends. So along the
Hmm.
way, when you're writing this book or you're feeling these feelings, like obviously you've got Sam, but who do you go to when you're just like, I just want to be like an ugly, pimpled out version of myself? Like, I just feel like there's a lot of pressure on women. And I don't think of you as being a perfectionist, but you're just very together. You just have your
Mm.
shit together.
Well, you're nice because 9 days out of 10, I don't look and feel together, but I think it's an attitude. Like, I could just give a rip. If I
Yeah,
show up to yoga in Amazon shorts and a really bad ponytail, it doesn't matter. I'm just there on my mat. Or, if I'm at the grocery store after swimming with a wet ponytail and big goggle eyes and no makeup, it's like, well, I know you
I
know what I
love
look
that.
like some other times, but that's what I
I'm
look
able
like
to
right
pull my
now.
shit
So,
together sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, I guess I think it's just maybe it's like over time, you just like I don't know. There's just
Just
so
part of
many other
the,
things to
yeah.
worry about.
I agree. Well, I want to get into childhood because, of course, said it in the beginning, I've known you forever. We grew up on this little island, Mercer Island, outside of Seattle, together, always at this little tiny, when you say country club, East Coast friends are going to be like, oh, it's like fab. No, this is like the community center with the with the
Yeah.
bubble and the outdoor pool. And Loretta held all the records at the country club for the swim team. Her mom was this little Irish woman who'd swim laps for hours. All of the
Hmm.
siblings were there. I was the tennis player. What is your fondest memory? It's a big question, so I don't know, but just broadly of your childhood, when you think of your childhood.
Some of my fondest memories are literally just of our tribe of seven, my mom, my dad, my brother and sisters, and building forts at our club or building forts downstairs in our basement. We never finished the basement. My parents couldn't afford to finish the basement, so it literally was just like I swear practically concrete floor, bare bones. But my sister, my oldest sister, you remember this probably. She sold the most candy bars for
Oh, I
her like high
remember.
school fundraiser. So she won this big, huge stereo, and we probably had three or four records. Neil Diamond, The Gap Band, Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire's greatest
They're
hits.
still all your favorites.
They're all my favorites. And we used to just blast that stereo in her room. And literally, the hallway from the playroom to the laundry room was like our dance floor runway. Some of my best memories were Sundays. And I think that from the earliest days, I adopted a love of Sundays because being raised Irish Catholic, Sunday was a really kind of sacred day. We would all go to mass and then we would come home and as a family make dinner and just play. And my parents would also just relax and like play, so to speak. So I never grew up with a dad being stressed about a Sunday or my mom wanting to get things, tidied up for Monday. I grew up with just Sunday was just a day of rest and play and family time. And still to this day, our family really, I think, enjoys Sunday just because why would you not? If you
Yeah.
start to worry about the week coming, you just lost another day of the week and it's going to come no matter what. And yes, you can be organized about it, but it'll all get done, I guess. So those are some of my fondest memories.
Yeah. I love that. And did you have a childhood hero? Someone that you looked up to or people?
My heroes probably were my swim coaches.
That's amazing. And how old were you when you realized you were excellent at swimming?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it was like I was kind of this little just childhood phenom that was like winning races, I guess, and breaking records. But I think it was when I got serious with my club team, probably like early in high school. And, I was competing across the country and in junior Olympics and nationals. And I was on the cover of Swimming World USA, and I don't have a copy of that. But those were the times I think I realized, like, wow, I accidentally qualified for the Olympic trials. I wasn't even trying, and I made the cut. And I was like, oh, well, imagine that. So I think that because my parents didn't put a ton of pressure, I actually had a really like enjoyable club swimming experience because I
Yeah.
think a lot of other kids had a lot of pressure, or nowadays I see it because I'm at the same pool as some of these superstars, and oh God, it looks a little different than when you and I were growing
Oh,
up.
yeah. Yeah. So in the book, you talk a lot about your family and the Irish values as immigrant parents and the sacrifices that they made. Tell me a little bit about how that part of your identity influences you as a parent.
When I think about, well, the immigrant part of it is just simple, faith-filled, super resilient, super hardworking. But there's also a very spontaneous fun factor. And I think that I got both of those kind of traits. My mom was, you remember, just ultra disciplined. She ran our house so strict, so disciplined. And she did it. She was just like a one man, like pit crew. She did everything. We didn't have chores growing up. She did everything with no help, no microwave. She just did it all and just kind of did it with a sense of kind of organization and grace, and still exercised 5 days a week. She volunteered, she sang in the choir. She just kind of went through and she just worked really hard for the sake of our family. I think the way that inspired me really specifically was when Declan was doing high school swimming, and they had two practice options, one in the morning before high school at 5 a.m. So it was like 5:15 or 5:30 to 6:45, and then they would walk to the high school, or they could go in the afternoon. But she just was like, "Oh, I just kind of want to go in the morning and get that done," which meant that during that high school season in the fall, she needed a ride. She was a freshman, sophomore, junior, didn't have her license. So that's where I just kind of channeled my mom, and I would dig deep and get up at 5 a.m. and drive her to practice with our neighbor across the street. And I thought, you know what? It's the least I can do. It's a moment in time. I can wake up for the sake of the fact that she wants to wake up and do that instead of doing it in the afternoon, which is the much easier time frame. But I think it was my parents showing me all of those examples of just being unselfish and supportive that
Yeah.
kind of I channel that when things are like, oh God, I don't want to do that. But why would you not?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's a little bit more action versus words from your parents. They just like did the actions
Hmm.
that told such a big story. And how about Sam's parents? How has that influenced your parenting?
Sam's parents taught us, still teach us so much. And it's almost because my parents were a bit older. It's almost like there's a generational gap between my parents, because I was the youngest of five, and then Sam's parents, who are still just barely 80. So, considering we've been together for 26 years, they were really young when we first started dating and getting together. One of the most fundamental things I think we learned from them early on through their actions more than their words was that they prioritized themselves first. And they always kind of showed us and then later told us that if they were strong, then everything else could orbit around them in a really healthy way. And if they broke down, then everything else would break down. And
Yeah.
so,
That's not common these days.
no, so they showed us that just by how they loved and treated each other. And then they supported us when the kids were really little. Anytime we ever asked for babysitting to go on a date night or go on a weekend away, or in the summer, they would take the kids out to their cabin for a couple of days. So they really role modeled for us prioritizing their relationship and then allowed us and supported us to prioritize our relationship, which
Yeah,
is, like you said, so rare, but it's also so important when you're in the thick of it. You have no time. And then you know what else I think is with them is they are just, it's the ultimate example of unconditional support. We would come for dinner and they would literally say, "Come in at 5:30, you'll be out at 6:05." And they meant it. Like when kids are little, the last thing you want to do is go to like the grandparents' house on a Tuesday and be stuck for 3 hours. They'd be like, "We got it." You walk in, dinner would practically be on the table. And then we would chat, laugh, eat. They'd have an ice cream cone for the kids, and then we were out.
oh,
They did everything. So it was things
that's
like
so
that where it was
cool.
like they just invested in the kids early, and our kids are so lucky to have their own independent relationship, each one of them with both grandpa and grandma, which and they call them, they rely on them, they go and see them when we're not even in town. It's super special.
That's super special. So you ended up swimming competitively for Cal. How did you choose Cal? And looking back, was that the right choice?
I had been going on recruit trips like kind of all over and by myself. I mean, I was in Auburn, Alabama, Florida State, UCLA, University of Washington, and I went by myself. I was a year young for my grade, so I was barely 17. I wasn't even 17, to be honest, because that was the fall of my senior year when I turned 17. So I was
Yeah.
16 years old, 30 years ago, flying around by myself. And I just kind of, I guess the only thing I knew was I had to listen to my instinct. So none of them felt instinctively right. I took myself on my own spring break trip with my friend Kelly from Mercer Island, and I contacted the coach at Cal. Actually, I had met her at a training camp, and I said, "Karen, can I come and meet with you again? I really, really want to go to Cal." I really wanted to go to Cal or Stanford. I felt like A, I wanted to get to the sun. B, I wanted to go to a really good school with a great swimming program. And those were like my two top options. The other four that I had been recruited at and visited, none of them felt good and they felt really far. Auburn
Yeah.
and Florida State felt super far. So I called the coach. I called both coaches. George Haynes at Stanford was like, "Oh my gosh, Loretta, we love you. We would love to have you swim here. Your SAT scores are so bad. I can't get you in, honey." Even though I had a great grade point, I was terrible at standardized tests. I didn't even break a
Yeah.
thousand. So he was like, I can't. So then I went and talked with Karen, who had been my coach at a training camp that summer. And I swam in the pool. And then about a week or two later, she called our house. I answered the phone from my parents' bedroom. And I was like, "Really? Can you give me more money? Can you give me more money?" I mean, my parents literally had no idea. When I accepted the offer from her, and decided to go. I think I told my coach, and it was literally the parish priest at our church that was like, "You're going to Berkeley? You're not going to come back a hippie, are you?" My parents were like, "A hippie? What is this place?" And I was like, "Don't worry. Great school,
That's
great swimming program. I think
hilarious.
it's all going to be fine."
That's
So
so
it really
funny.
ended up being an amazing choice for me. I made my best friends in the world, of course. Swimming was awesome, great education. More than anything, it was such a departure from where you and I grew up. We couldn't have grown up in a more sheltered environment. So to go from the south end of Mercer Island down to Berkeley with people with all kinds of thought processes and everything. I mean, it was literally an education just walking on the campus, let alone the classroom.
I love it. So in the book, you say that the job market at the time that you graduated didn't care about your dreams. What were your dreams?
You know what? I don't even know if I had dreams. Like when I was little, I seriously only dreamed about going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
That was all. My parents didn't talk about business at home. We didn't talk about careers. My dad had a great job as an engineer. My mom never went to college. It was just never a topic of conversation. So when I even came up with like an idea of a job, sports marketing, broadcast journalism, they were all just made up. And so I didn't really have a dream, but I knew my dream was I wanted to stay in Northern California with my friends.
Yes.
And that became the necessity.
Yeah. And Annette was, climbing the Nordstrom ladder at the time, right? Your older
Yeah.
sister. And she's the one who kind of said, hey, you could come work maybe at Nordstrom as a cashier.
Yeah. I mean, I graduated and I remember my mom being like, wait, you're not coming home with us? And I was like, no, I'm staying here. I didn't know where I was going to stay. I had, I didn't have anything. I literally had like a couple bags of clothes and probably a bike and caps and goggles. And so my sister just said, why don't you live in our little storage room? I seriously had to like duck to get into the storage room. And I think I slept like on a pad in a sleeping bag. And she said, it's the Nordstrom sale. We always need cashiers. Just hop in the car. She gave me my employee number driving from San Mateo to Palo Alto,
It's perfect.
514059. That was my employee number, 514059. And then she taught me back in the day with the old school cash register, she taught me like one is for cash, two is a check, three is Visa, four is American Express. So the lines are like as long as you can see. God knows how much stuff I rang up incorrectly, but I had fun. The day went super fast. And I was like, well, I have a job. I guess I'll come back tomorrow.
I love it. And so obviously we're going to get into it, how you rose from that position as a cashier to running a $2 billion business to EVP at Nordstrom. What qualities, if you had to look back, you said like three of them, made you personally successful there?
Goal oriented. When you're in retail in a commission-based system that promotes from within and promotes based on performance, goal setting and achieving is absolutely number one. I think number two is you have to love serving people. And sure, you're selling them, but actually, if you think it through, that you're serving them and through whatever you're selling them, making their life, their vacation, their interview better, then that's you've done your job. So I'd say it's goal setting, it's serving people, and then I love the running around and moving. If I had sat down at a job, there's no possible way.
Yeah, but that's the early days, like selling, but then you moved up to the corporate roles.
So then I think it's leading through people,
Yeah.
teaching people and leading through people. If you ever think you're going to get it done by yourself as an executive, as the owner, as a leader, you're never going to. You have to be able to teach, empower, nurture your team. You're as good as your weakest player, but it's in your control to make all your players strong. I think over time, as my job got bigger and I had to focus on outcome and influence, that's why I was successful.
Yeah. And did you have your own kind of methodology or go-to questions for interviews to assess talent? Or did they give you some templated, like, this is what we're looking for?
No, I was always my own. I always wanted to know if people felt comfortable taking initiative. Were they goal oriented? Were they eager to learn and improve and progress and get promoted? And were they humble enough to just ask questions and be coached?
Yeah.
And we were all so lucky to work under the Nordstrom family because they are really humble people. They ask a lot of questions. They're always eager to learn. How can we improve the experience for the customer every single day? And so when you're interviewing people, you're really kind of trying to fish around for those qualities. The what's on the resume, that's all fine, but I want experience. I want storytelling. I want something that makes the person interesting and conversational. I actually could kind of care less about like the hardcore internships or whatever. I was always looking for people that had a story to tell themselves and kind of felt confident in their ability to forge relationships.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all along the way, because I lived in San Francisco with you at the same time, and then when I took off and went to New York, and then you moved back to Seattle, got the,
That's right.
getting these big promotions, I got kind of I don't know if it's a front row seat to all of it, but a slight front row seat, and you just seemed so untouchable and so much like on top of the world. How much of your identity became tied up in Nordstrom?
I would say, thank God, not too much, because when I got fired, it was out of the clear blue sky. But I'd probably be lying if I didn't say a good portion of my identity was tied up in it as I was progressing. I mean, I would never make a call to a vendor and say, "Hi, it's Loretta Soff." I would say, "Hi, it's Loretta from Nordstrom." Instantly, I'd get put in to the owner, the CEO, the investor, whomever. But boy, does that come crashing down when you're no
Yeah.
longer Loretta from Nordstrom. I think I would caution people, women in particular, to not over-identify with that title. Is that really your legacy? Is that really what you want to be known for? Because in the blink of an eye and out of your own control, that can be gone.
Yeah. So if you were starting a company today, like the next Nordstrom, what would you emulate as far as the structure, the strategy, the culture? So many cool things I learned about the Nordstrom culture through your book. What would you keep and what would you change?
Well, the inverted pyramid is I think that's a super unique and highly valuable structure. And really what that means is that the more responsibility you have and the further away from the customer you are, the further down the pyramid you are. Meaning, we want those people, we want the front line, we wanted the frontline employees that touch the customer to have the most support and be the most kind of uplifted employees. And then as we grew in responsibility, we were less important, even though we had more important ultimate P&L
Decisions and yeah,
responsibility. So I would say that's number one. There's obviously the incredible culture around service and customer obsession. But I think what gets underplayed, which I have tried to bring to other companies, is the culture around recognition. And I was talking about this on another podcast, and someone asked about celebrating. And we grew up in a culture where you celebrated the wins, performance, and kind of support wins every single month in every single store in the company, where someone from the executive team flies to the stores. It could be in Boca Raton, it could be Nashville, it could be Palo Alto. But back in my day, every month, every store had a recognition meeting with someone from either the family or the executive team. And that had so many positive ripple effects. A, for one day, everyone bought a new outfit, they shined, and they kind of got a dose of executive expertise and culture. But it also breeded just a performance expectation where you wanted to work extra hard because you wanted to be that person up on top of the stage. And they made it a really big deal. And then as a divisional, we would have quarterly recognition meetings, annual recognition meetings. So I'd say that that is something that isn't showcased that often about Nordstrom, but is a really pinnacle part of the culture, a pinnacle part of the performance. I don't know if it still exists to that level, but if it doesn't, if I was there, it'd be one of the first things I would find a way, even at the scale they are, to bring back.
yeah. It's hard to scale a business and hold on to those
Oh, it's so
core
hard.
behaviors and cultures. And I know you helped shape Nordstrom's early omnichannel strategy and the e-commerce.
Mhm.
What did you do at the time, or did someone else recognize in you that you felt, or someone else told you was game changing?
We identified back at the time when it was an accidental side of our business. We sat in a boardroom early on, and I'm going to say it was, I gosh, I'm going to date myself, but early 2000s. And we looked at kind of the four pillars of an e-commerce business. and that was product assortment, pricing strategy, experience, and convenience. And we took those four pillars and we sat as a group and then as divisionals and said, where are we going to participate? Are we going to be lagging? Are we going to be leading? Or are we going to be an exemplar? And at the time, Amazon was just kind of beginning and they hadn't even gotten to Prime. Where they were really exemplary was product selection. They had everything. So we sat and as each division, whether it was shoes, cosmetics, women's, men's, accessories, which one of us wants to be an exemplar and try to go head to head on product selection? And most of us, I think, with the exception of beauty, just said, no, we can't. We could never afford to have that kind of inventory online. It's just cost prohibitive, style, experience prohibitive. But when we came down to experience and convenience, convenience meaning ship direct to store, next day shipping, whatever it was, we said, you know what, guys, we at least have to be leading and on par. And if we're competing against Neiman's, Net-a-Porter, Shopbop, Saks, Target, Amazon, we would evaluate how all of those retailers would participate against each one of those pillars. And that was really the changing point when we got serious about product selection that aligned with what our customers wanted, very competitive, never undersold pricing, underpinned with exceptional experience. And so we upgraded the site, we added style information, we added catalog imaging, you name it. But we really kind of upgraded the experience. And then in convenience, we said we are going to deliver the most incredible convenience with experience that we can. And that's when we really that's when the business literally grew from like 1.5 billion to 10 billion. We identified key categories. So for me, it was, probably dresses and denim. But I mean, I grew that business from 1.5 billion to 2 billion. And most of
Incredible.
that came from online. And it was profitable, but it was getting really deliberate category by category and saying, we're not going to be in business on all these brands, but we're going to be the best of in this brand and we're going to deliver incredible experience. So we kind of just tackled it that way. And then, and then we had to evolve. I mean, things changed so much. We changed structures, we changed inventory ownership. Really, the mantra was we want to be the best Nordstrom we can be 24/7, regardless of how customers shop. There's
Yeah.
no separate channels, it's all one experience.
One experience. And so I know I moved back to Seattle in 2009, and I was trying to remember what year it was when you got fired. I think it was 2012, right?
Yep.
2012. But at those early days, I remember talking to you on the phone on your way back in your, corporate car. You had that big, beautiful car. And I
Yeah.
think you were changing in the car to try to get to yoga without going in the house.
Yep, I'm sure.
You didn't want to, you're like, once I'm in, and I won't get my run in, or I won't get my yoga in.
You're so right. I would change at the end of the street here because if I came in,
Yes,
they'd
it's
all
game
tackle
over.
me.
Yes. So I think I met up with you and you were like, I can't go in the house. I got to change in the car. We're going on a walk.
I
And I just was like, this
forgot.
is an efficiency hack that I absolutely love. How would you at that time when it's just like it's chaos, you've got these kids and how would you have described your family culture and how did you and Sam make the decision around that? Like, was that a deliberate conversation? This is before, well, he quit, he started working at home. What year was that Sam started working at the house?
When Declan was born is when he decided to stay home and he thought he was going to do it for 1 year and it ended up being
Yeah,
12.
yeah. And a criminal defense attorney. I mean, a crazy
Yeah.
prosecutor. What was he doing at the time?
He was a prosecuting attorney. He was working for the county. He was prosecuting and in trials a lot, and he loved it.
I wouldn't want to be up against Sam.
No, right?
That guy, he's the smartest. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, you can get really lawyered by him quickly.
Oh yeah, I'm scared.
Yeah. No, that decision for us was super organic. Like we hadn't really crossed that, like who's going to stay home, who's going to do what. And it wasn't until literally like 8 or 10 weeks prior where we kind of just said, wait, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And I think I was kind of projecting that I'll have a maternity leave and then we'll figure it out. But then Sam raised his hand and he was like, well, I'll stay home. And I was like, you'll stay home for a year with a brand new baby? And I have to tell you, my mom, when I told her that, was kind of horrified. She was just like, the thought of me not staying home, I'll never forget it. And then, of course, it became the best decision imaginable. And my mom absolutely loved Sam and just saw how good he was at that job as a stay-at-home dad with a brand new baby. But
Hmm.
initially, it was not something we thought of or planned for. We got lucky that it was kind of a seamless decision when we made the decision, but we thought it was for 1 year and then we'll decide. And then
Yeah. I mean, but he's so combination of so smart, so masculine, so calm, so capable that
mhm.
it just, of all the couples, like it just seemed to work. And almost today, it's like, and because there's a lot more, but he was an early pioneer of this thing. Like, this wasn't like, it's 50-50 at the parks, or it's like in New York, it's all nannies. And here it was like
Right.
all these moms who are like competing over. And I love the part where he says, I got to get out of jail free card where I didn't have to show up with like the home good, home baked recipe because I was the
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
dude.
yeah.
And I feel like this book, I have bought the book for a lot of people, especially the younger people, where it's almost like in reverse. Like, let's stop with this pressure on each other of
I agree. I
it's
mean,
just insane.
it is insane. I see it so much with like the younger women that I know with the younger babies. And it's like they've got the photographer at every 6 month mile marker. It's like, come on.
It's
Like we're
insane.
so lucky we didn't have that. Sam and I just had a great lunch over the weekend with some friends whose kids are, let's say 8 years younger. And we walked away from that going, oh my God, thank God we're through the tunnel. We're through the tunnel. I don't envy people because I feel like there's so much pressure
It's gotten so
to
much
like,
more.
oh, it's just like, I know. So I feel like the fact that he would show up for like the whatever birthday and bring like the clamshell of like powdered donuts and practically
It
throw
makes me so
them.
happy. It
It's
makes me
so
so
great.
happy.
I wish, I like I said, I wish more people could like relieve themselves of the pressure
Yeah.
and just do it that way.
Yeah, and I love this story. My favorite was, I had never heard this one, was him saying like pack, well, what do I need? Well, just pack what you need to Ashley, and that she's packing like her dolls
Yeah.
and Barbies. It's the best, but those I love that you guys, that's the whole grace part of the book.
And you'll love this. So that was a week in Hawaii, and she ended up borrowing our friend Jack Rose camo Maui built board shirts. And she was
Perfect.
probably 4 years old. So she just ran around in board shirts with nothing. And then I think we went to like, whatever the local Walmart was and bought her some underwear. So that's how she
Right.
spent the vacation.
And the best stories ever. Like, right? So walk me back. So was there a family culture of like how you would describe it? Sam was the kind of stay-at-home mom slash dad, and you
Yeah.
were the big badass executive. But there were things that I knew already, and also things I learned from reading the book around like non-negotiables in the family. Was that something that the two of you discussed, or were like, these are a few nuggets from Sam, these are my little nuggets I brought to the table, around like family dinner, or no phones at the table, or
Yeah. The early years, I think like you kind of hardly remember those. Those are just chaos. That's just like survival mode. Then I think it's almost like those like 6 and under is just a blur and it's survival and it's like, it's messy houses and a little chaos. And we learned to just try and give each other the benefit of the doubt that he was working hard to do what he could. I was working hard, but no matter what, it was a team. Then I think transfer to when the kids were in middle school. And that's when I think we got deliberate. And I'm going to say I think I took the lead on a bunch of that stuff because of how I was brought up. So like the no sleepovers, that was how I was brought up. My mom didn't allow them. My mom kind of ran our house. My mom didn't allow kids to sleep over and didn't allow us to sleep over. And her philosophy was Sleep is imperative, and being rested is a recipe for a good day. So when the kids were in middle school and that becomes kind of a thing, I was like, no, I don't want to wake up to a house full of kids. That's my day off on a Saturday or Sunday. And I don't want our kids to be tired. That's going to ruin everybody's weekend. So that was one thing. I think that the no phones at dinner was so deliberate, and it was like they barely had phones, but all five of us would lock them in the glove compartment, whether we would go to California Pizza Kitchen or sushi, and Sam and I included. And that just became a thing that we still do. And it's like if someone sees someone with a phone, and it's typically Declan, because she's had to take photos, and we're like, okay, now no phones at dinner. And we all kind of govern each other on
That's
that.
great.
I'm just such a believer in that, and I think it's Arthur Brooks has said this so eloquently that if you want your kids to model behavior, you have to show them. They won't hear it, but they will see it. Um, and it's discipline on stuff like that. It's, if you don't want kids to eat sugar, then we probably should stop eating chocolate chips. So I think like those things around family culture, they were pretty deliberate. And I think they were kind of like one by one, but they were pretty deliberate. And I've often said like we were not helicopters on kind of what they ate per se or bedtimes. Bedtime was still like important, but it wasn't like we weren't militant. What we were militant about was how they treated each other. So if we ever overheard them not talking nicely, not including, not sharing, not anything, that was where we were like, that's where the hammer came down.
Yeah. So, what do you hope that men and women, when I'm giving this book to people, it's oftentimes, it's really for both. But what do you hope that the takeaway is from Sam's perspective during the book?
I hope that since that role reversal is still fairly uncommon. I think we're seeing more of it, especially with like people that are working hybrid or working from home. But it's still pretty uncommon for a male to take the primary role. I want them to feel like it's possible, it's important, it it's so valuable in ways that you will not even know. I think that Sam probably somewhere subliminally knew his impact on the kids, but I honestly don't think he really felt it until he actually like read what they wrote about having their dad stay home. When we got that back from my editor after she interviewed them and put that together, we were literally like crying reading that. That was like, and so for him, I think it's so affirming. I think he already knew the job he did, but I think that's just extra affirming. So there's a couple guys in particular that were at our house with their wives, and their wives were like, oh, I don't know if I'm ever going to have time. I don't know if I can actually have a family and maintain my career. And they both have really big jobs. And I remember, and this was not that long ago, sitting at the table, leaning in, going, oh, you can. Just let me have a little more time with you, or let us have a little more time with you. And one of those husbands was a beta reader for Sam's chapter. And he was thrilled to be the reader. And I remember after he told me on the pool deck, he goes, you know what? This might be the situation or the solution for my wife and I. And this gave me like a perspective and a confidence that I could do it. And I
Oh,
was like, oh,
I love
yay.
that. What
If
a
we could
gift.
change one family's potential with that, that would be a win.
Yeah. Love it. I mean, yeah, it's like the traditional home with like roles in reverse. All three kids had the most sentimental, sweet, and funny things to say. I
Yeah.
just love it. And I also loved reading about the kids' response to the fateful text. Like, first, take us back for 2 seconds. We've kind of touched on it, but you've got this $2 billion business, you're EVP, you're riding high, Sam's crushing it at home, the kids are all thriving. Get back from Cabo, you get that fateful text. What did the text say?
I mean, I have chills, seriously, as you just are asking that question. And I walked out the door that morning. I got in the car, I was probably barely across the bridge, and I get the text and it says, hey, Loretta, when you get in this morning, why don't you swing by my office?
And who sent it?
Pete Nordstrom. who was president of the company, and that's who I'd worked for 12 years. And I just, literally my heart sank because that's not a normal text from him, and certainly not on my first morning back. Like, there's no way he was going to just say, "Hey, how was your vacation?" So I just knew, and somehow I was able just to, like, with like shaking, holding the steering wheel, get myself to my parking spot. I looked at it again and I was like, "Oh my God, I actually can't believe this is happening." I knew it was happening
Why did you know though? Because none of that
because I
really like adds up because your business was thriving, you were profitable, you were growing.
my business, so this was 2012. We had gotten through the 2008 recession, but my division, women's, was early to go down and late to come out.
Mm,
So while we came out and the landscape in retailing and the way consumers were purchasing had changed forever. So everything we had put into place had to be kind of recalibrated. So we spent another probably 6 to 12 months. I did with a group of consultants and my core leadership team, redefining, okay, now post-recession, what is our offering and our participation strategy against the competitors and for our customers look like? Where are we going to like go long? Is it with private label? Is it with value pricing? Is it with national brands? And we figured all that out. And meanwhile, women's is trailing the company, but my division was like performing better than Neiman's, Macy's, Ann Taylor, Banana Republic, J. Crew, all of my direct competitors, we were better than, but we weren't good enough. And when
mm.
you're an executive for a publicly traded company, the expectations are super high and it doesn't matter. If you're the best of the worst, they don't care. I'd been feeling the pressure. I'll never forget like being at Fashion Week in Paris with my team, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And, at whatever the time difference was. I can't even remember, but I feel like it would be like at 12 midnight when things were happening back in Seattle. I would start to get a text. And so then I'd be up half the night, like ruminating over, holy shit, they're digging into our business. Our business is bad. We're trying to plan for the next season, but I can't be in two places at one time. So it was kind of like I could feel the pressure. I was doing my best to kind of mitigate it and manage it. So I left that Christmas with a new strategy for how we were going to go forward from 2012 on. And I would say that, they largely employed that strategy even in my absence. But I wrapped it up with a bow. Christmas Eve, I went and found Pete and Eric. I delivered the strategy. Have a great holiday. Thank you so much. So went away, but the 2 days prior to returning from Cabo, I started to get the text messages and I was like, oh God, I should have come back on January 1st, not January 5th. So that's how, like, in my heart, when I got that message, I started to get the signals. I wouldn't have done anything different. It is what it is. I think actually it was a huge blessing in disguise.
Well, you found that right away, Lo. I don't know if you remember this, but you and I went to hot yoga, I think
Yes.
within that week. And we sat out, we came out of the class and we were boiling hot. Steam was coming off of us. I remember it was winter because it was freezing outside.
Yeah, it was
And
January.
you were like, I got to tell you what's going on. And I was like, what? I mean, you were knee deep in it and you were already making lemonade out of lemons. You were already charging forward with like a very Loretta, there wasn't a whole pity party happening.
No, and I think it's because I didn't over-identify. I think it was just like how I've been raised. Like, there is adversity that's always going to happen. And yes, you have to kind of like face it and deal with it, but sitting in it isn't going to help you. And so I think I was shifting to focus on the goodness around that decision. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I had massive PTSD for at least 6 months, if not longer. I would wake up in the night and just go, wait, what happened?
Like you dreamt it, like it was a bad dream.
How did that happen? And it was one of those situations where I had no say. We had no conversation, we had no warning, we had no like let's go to therapy and see if we can work this out. It was literally like, thank you, goodbye. And that's what I think was the hardest part.
Have you talked to any of the family about it since?
I never did. Blake Nordstrom, who's since passed, wrote me the most incredible note after I left. But unfortunately, I never even got a goodbye note letter from Pete or Eric.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Is that the playbook for publicly traded companies? Is that how it is? Like in my industry, you kind of walk people out and you don't give them the 2 weeks because of confidentiality and competitive, behaviors. You just have to that's just kind of how it is, unless in certain circumstances you do, but it's just shitty.
Yeah, it was really rare to actually fire someone. So that's not in their kind of DNA to like let's walk you nicely out the door. That's just not how those guys are. The way Pete handled it was exceptional, but it was super unceremonious.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sure. And when did you realize at what point? I mean, you've got the PTSD, but at what point were you like, you know what? This is actually the best thing that's happened to me.
It didn't take very long. I was lucky that I had such strong relationships with the vendor community. So within a couple of days, my phone started ringing off the hook with people that were sad and felt, sorry, wanted to say goodbye, but as many others that said, can you work for us? Can you help us? So within probably a matter of like maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I started my consulting business like super organically sitting on my bedroom floor. There's a picture I have from Cabo. We actually went back to Cabo in February because the kids had time off and was like, well, I'm not at Fashion Week, so let's just go to Cabo. And I'm sitting in the sand with like a vendor walking in front of me. And I'll never forget it because that's where I sat in the sand and negotiated my first, biggest, and best contract to date. I had no idea what I was doing. I just kind of picked a big number and I thought they have really lofty goals. They have nobody that can do what I can do. I must be worth X, so I'm going to charge Y. And they didn't blink.
Yeah, you're like, we've got to get those again. That's so interesting. Well, now you're doing a combo. You're doing the speaking engagements, you're doing advisory work, you're doing coaching. Where do you get the most energy today? Obviously, the book is a whole other category that we touched on, but in your operating roles,
I get the most energy from speaking.
yeah, you're great at it. You're super articulate and clear.
I really get the most energy. And if I can like sit in front of, I haven't spoken in front of huge crowds yet, but 100, couple hundred people. If I can kind of connect with them and leave them feeling empowered to do something different that's going to improve their performance, themselves, or their life, I feel so good about that. And you can sense an energy in the room. And honestly, when I left Nordstrom, that leadership role of leading the biggest division in the company was what I missed the most. So I think the speaking gives me a little bit of that back that I hadn't had in 10 years.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, if anybody wants you to speak, how can they reach you? Because maybe somebody listening wants you to speak.
Now it's Loretta at lorettasoft.com. Or it's just on my website, which is lorettasoft.com.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I have a question for you on the workbook part of it. Are there certain questions that you seem to be hearing are creating some buzz for people? Is there breakthroughs happening as people are reading this book?
I think that people are just starting to get it and read it, but I have to say, over the last probably 3 or 4 days, I've had the most feedback around the chapter called the compatibility code. And what someone brought up to me, it was actually I was a guest on a podcast down in Newport Beach last week, and the host, Lori, was saying how it's also kind of applicable to friendships, not just like
100%.
relationships. And I thought that was so great. I'm also getting a lot around like career advancement, personal development. I think there's like 2 or 3 chapters relative to that. And I've had a few people say they wanted to use it for their book clubs.
Oh, this makes me
which
so happy to hear.
I didn't know book clubs were still a thing, but I think they're actually a really big thing. And I think this will actually help guide discussion, whether it's around motherhood, personal development, or career advancement.
Well, I liked their little hacks. Like I was like, you know me, I'm always like looking for little hacks, and you had the thing around like throwing the bins of gloves and the winter, like just little things that I was like, these are just basic takeaways that I'm like, girl, why have you been holding out on me? Like,
Well, do you
duh.
know where I got that? Is our friend Lori Mall.
Well, of course.
That bin of
Lori's like,
that bin of white socks. I was like, that's
Lori
genius.
gave me like a life go-to notebook when I moved here. She is the, and she needs to write a book too. We need a
Yes,
Lori
I
Mall
know.
book.
Let's get her to do that.
She is the grand poobah of all the things. Okay, what am I? Oh, compatibility code. Here I go. I found it. I've got your book in front of me. Okay, so just to cover these five areas, recreational, spiritual, intellectual, physical, and emotional.
Yeah.
Yes, we're lucky that we have that low in our
Yep,
friendship.
absolutely. Yeah.
I know. Well, what do they say? You're as good as the, or like something about the five people you surround yourself
Oh
with or
yeah, I
something.
love that quote. I know exactly what you're saying. It's like you are a sum
A
or a
product or
function.
yeah, reflection of.
Yeah, I love that.
What is your view? I thought this was interesting and I don't know the answer on alignment versus balance.
I'm totally believe in alignment because I just don't think you're ever going to be balanced. You're never going to be like 50-50, a third, a third, a third. But if you're aligned, like as a relationship, it's never gonna be, it's never gonna be like even this, that, and the other. But if you're aligned, like we are a team, we're the most important. We're like this example was no truer than Sam and I have literally been like running a hostel for the last 10 weeks. We've had 11 house guests. We've had tons of extended family here for dinners and this and that. And we haven't had a dinner by ourselves, barely a walk by ourselves. If we drive to and from yoga, that's it. Completely out of balance. But we're always aligned on we're doing this for the greater good. We're doing this for the kids, for their kids' friends, for our extended family. And we know we'll get there. And we did. So then we were able to have 3 nights in Laguna by ourselves with friends that was just dedicated to us. That's alignment. We were totally out of balance this entire summer.
That
We
makes
literally
sense. That totally
hadn't
makes
had a
sense.
dinner or a conversation, the two of us, since we were like end of June until this weekend. So that's, I think, the difference.
Yeah. Is there something that your kids tease you about consistently, but that actually makes you also laugh and also kind of proud? Like my kids flip me so much shit, but there's certain things I'm like, I want that to be how you see me. That's funny.
Yeah, I'm running out of like remembering. They tease me all the time. They think I repeat stuff a lot. They think I repeat stuff. They think that this has literally been like the fourth child in the Chapin family. This book has been like the content pillar for the Chapin family. So they're like so proud and so humbled and excited about it. But literally they were like, oh my God, again?
That's so good. Since you are a person with goals and you are a person who manifests, what do you see as this next chapter? And what will be like, I feel successful, I feel fulfilled as it relates to the book and your career?
I guess I mean, I feel fulfilled just completing it and putting out in the universe. I think a goal is to get it on a huge scale. Like I'm like waiting, dying, manifesting, getting a call or an email from Mel Robbins. I really feel like that could happen.
I do too. I told you that. I was freaking out. I was like, girl, why not you? Go big or go home.
Yeah, but I'm not, I think through this whole process, it's been such a learning curve. I've just like put so much of it kind of just in the hands of the universe. And so I'm not like overly worried about it. I'm just gonna like do what I know needs to be done each day, progressing towards that. And then I'm just manifesting that I can reach more people. And I think in order to reach more people, you got to reach a few people, which is
Yes.
whether it's Gabby Reese, Mel Robbins, Jesse Itzler, Oprah, whomever.
Let's go, Oprah.
Yeah. So, yeah, those are, I think that would be the ultimate goal, but I already feel super fulfilled.
Yeah, I'm sure you feel very validated because I know that you're getting a lot of buzzy, positive feedback and it's very
Yeah,
well
it's super
deserved.
affirming. Yeah. Well, because you just don't know. You put something out there that's super personal. It's honest, it's vulnerable, and you just want to make sure it kind of hits with people. And I did enough diligence, but I didn't overly index it, but I did enough like early beta reading just to see. But then I was like, it is what it is. I'm just going for it. I'm not gonna like
Good girl.
wait. So to get now it in the hands of like even there was a guy on the pool deck this morning that is young. He's like 30, went to Texas A&M. He's awesome. He has a bunch of little kids and he's like, "Loretta, just got your book. I'm loving it." And I was like, would never have thought that that
Oh,
guy would be one of the readers. So those are the things I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad.
well,
Thanks."
I hope the pod brings more eyes and ears and
I hope
all the
so. Thanks,
things to the
Anna.
book. My final question for you is what fuels you?
Supporting and loving my husband and family, my kids. That's what really fuels me.
Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. If you'd like to check out past episodes to hear from more business leaders, go to fueltalent.com/podcast. And if you have a minute, please leave a review and rating on your favorite podcast app or share this episode with a friend or colleague. Please share any feedback or interview suggestions for other guests by sending a message to podcast@fueltalent.com. I'm Shauna Swerland, and thanks again for listening.